Namaste everyone, welcome to Prepare with Lakshmi. Today we will be discussing about Epithalamion by Edmund Spenser. Epithalamion is an ode to his bride Elizabeth Boyle on their wedding day in 1594. It was first published in 1959 in London by William Ponsonby as part of a volume entitled Amorety and Epithalamion. The ode begins with an invocation to the Muses to help the groom and moves through the couple's wedding day from Spenser's impatient hours before dawn while waiting for his bride to wake up to the late hours of night after Spenser and Boyle have consummated their marriage, wherein Spenser's thoughts drift towards the wish for his bride to have a fertile womb so that they may have many children. Spenser meticulously records the hours of the day from before dawn to late into the wedding night. Its 24 stanzas represents the hours of midsummer day. The ode's content progresses from the enthusiasm of youth to the concerns of middle age by beginning with high hopes for a joyful day and ending with an eye towards the speaker's legacy to future generations. In the 15th stanza, Spenser changes the structure. Throughout the poem, the stanzas are structured with 18 or 19 lines. In the 15th, there is a line missing. The rhyming structure typically goes AB, AB, CC, then DE, DE, FF and so on. But stanza 15 is FEGG, HH. This might have been done to keep the onomatopoeia of the poem or to keep the structure of the 365 lines as a metaphor for a year. The last stanza has only 7 lines and is called as Envoy. Learned sisters, which have oftentimes been to me aiding, others to adorn, whom you thought worthy of your graceful rhymes, that even the greatest did not greatly scorn to hear their names sung in your simple lays, but joyed in their praise. And when you list your own mishaps to mourn, which death or love or fortune's wreck did raise, your string could soon to sadder tenor turn, and teach the woods and waters to lament your doleful dreariment. And lay those sorrowful complaints aside, and having all your heads with garland crowned, help me mine own love's praises to resound, nay let the same of any be envied, so Orpheus did for his own bride, so I unto myself alone will sing, the wood shall to me answer, and my echo ring. Now here, learned sisters are muses, which have oftentimes been to me aiding. Aiding is helping. Here he is saying many times, oftentimes you have helped me, others to adorn. Here others means other aristocrats. You have helped them. When whom you thought worthy of your graceful rhymes. Your graceful rhymes means your graceful words, rhymes, that even the greatest did not greatly scorn. Greatest people also did not greatly hate to hear their names sung in your simple lays. In your simple words, when you are singing their praise, they are happy to listen to their names when you people sing. And when you list your own mishaps to mourn, your own mishaps to mourn means the 9 learned sisters or the 9 muses were giving complaints. He is referring to the tears of the muses. Here the tears of the muses, in which this is a poem in which the 9 muses were complaining about the decadence of poetry and the neglect of learning. When they were fortune's wreck did raise. Fortune's wreck means here ruinous fortune. Fortunes were ruined when they were singing, and your string could soon to sadder tenor turn means your song will change to sad song immediately, and the woods and the waters to lament your doleful dreariment. Woods and waters to lament. Here he is talking about Orpheus when he was producing music, when he was singing beautiful music to invoke his bride Eurydice from the death. Okay, all the forests and waters were sad from this. And so now lay those sorrowful complaints aside. Now he is saying, forget about those complaints now. And having all your heads with garland crown, wear the crown of garland, and help me mine own love praises to resound. Now help me to praise my own love. That is Elizabeth Boyle. How Orpheus sang the beautiful music for to invoke the bride, to make Eurydice get up from the death. Like that, I also want to sing the praises of my bride to wake her from her sleep. So help me to sing beautiful song. The wood shall to me answer, and my echo ring. This last line is repeated again and again at the end of each stanza, which is called as a refrain. Early before the world's light-giving lamp his golden beam upon the hills doth spread, having dispersed the night's uncheerful damp, do you awake, and with fresh lusty head go to the bower of my beloved love, my truest turtle dove. Bid her awake, for Hymen is awake, and long since ready forth his mask to move, with his bright teeth that flames with many a flake, and many a bachelor to wait on him in their fresh garments trim. Bid her awake therefore, and soon her dight, for lo, the wish day is come at last, that shall for all the pains and sorrows past pay to her usury of long delight, and whilst she doth her dight, do you to her of joy and solace sing, that all the woods may answer, and your echo ring. Now here, early before the world's light giving lamp, world's lamp is sun god. His golden beam upon the hills doth spread, his golden beams that spread over the hills, having dispersed the night's uncheerful damp. The night's uncheerful means not happy. The night dampness is thrown away by the dispersion. It was dispersed. The night's unhappy dampness was dispersed by this golden beam of light by the sun. Do you awake? Now he is saying the muses, go and wake my bride, go and wake her up, to go to a bower. Bower means the chamber of my beloved love. Go to the chamber, the bedroom of my beloved love. Elizabeth Boyle. Who is she? She is a turtle dove. He is comparing himself and his beloved Elizabeth Boyle to consortment of birds, two birds. He is comparing them to the birds, and he is saying, bid her awake, wake her up. For because Hymen is awake, Hymen is god of marriage, he is awake and long since ready forth his mask to move. He is a person who will start the wedding procession. He is a person who will lead the wedding procession, and he is ready for a long time now, with his bright teeth that flames with many a flake. Now here he is holding a torch which is having a flame, and many a bachelor to wait on him in their fresh garments trim. Many bachelors will wait on him with their garments fresh, because after the wedding procession only the bride will come to the groom. So they are waiting for, the bachelors are waiting in their beautiful garments, dresses. Bid her awake therefore. So he is saying, he is telling the muses, go and wake her up. Soon her dight. Soon her dight. Dight means a dress. Let her dress for this day. For lo, the wish day is come. For means because. Lo, see at last, the wished day is come. So the wedding day is here at last. That shall for all the pains and sorrows past pay to her usury of long delight. Now he is saying, pains and sorrows past means the groom and the bride, when they were courting, they have passed across many pains and sorrows. They have crossed, and now the groom plans to compensate her for all those difficulties. Usuri means here difficulties which the couple may have had in their courtship, which the poet wishes to compensate her for. Okay. So the pains and sorrows they have crossed across and they have successfully come to the day of marriage. And whilst she doth her diet, means while she is dressing herself, what the muses are supposed to do you to her of joy and solace sing to her about happy songs and give her comfort, that all the woods may answer and your echo ring. So in the second stanza, the poet is saying, before the day breaks, before the break of the day, the groom urges the muses to head to his beloved's chamber and to awaken her, to wake her up. Hymen, god of marriage, is ready, awake. He is already awake, and so should the bride also should be awake by now. The groom urges the muses to remind his bride that this wedding day is ready, here it has come, an occasion that will return her great delight for all the pains and sorrows she has gone through during the courtship. And if the god of marriage is ready and the groom is ready, then he expects the bride also to be ready. Now the focus here is on the marriage. It is not, the bride and the groom are not important. The marriage itself is very important over here. Bring with you all the nymphs that you can hear, both of the rivers and the forest green, and of the sea that neighbors to her near, all with gay garlands goodly well be seen. And let them also with them bring in hand another gay garland. For my fair love of lilies and roses, bound true love wise with a blue silk ribbon, and let them make great store of bridal poses, and let them eke bring store of other flowers to deck the bridal boughs. And let the ground whereas her foot shall tread, for fear the stones her tender foot should wrong, be strewed with fragrant flowers all along, and diapered like the discolored mead. Which done, do at her chamber door await, for she will waken straight, the whilst do you this song unto her sing, the wood shall to you answer, and your echo ring. Now here in this stanza, the groom instructs the muses to summon all the nymphs they can to accompany them to the bridal chamber. On their way, they are to gather all the fragrant flowers they can and decorate the path leading from the bridal bower where the marriage ceremony is to take place to the door of the bridal chambers. If they do so, she will walk nothing on but flowers on her procession from her rooms to the site of the wedding. As they adorn her doorway with flowers, their song will awaken the bride. Now here he is telling the muses, bring with you all the nymphs that you can hear, both of the rivers and the forest green. Now he is saying, muses, when you are coming here, bring all the nymphs along with you, the river nymphs as well as the forest nymphs. Bring them, and when you are bringing them, and of the sea that neighbors to her near, all with gay garlands goodly well be seen. All of you carry the garlands of happy flowers. He is saying gay garlands means beautiful, happy flowers, goodly well be seen with them, and let them also with them bring in hand another gay garland. They are saying let them bring extra gay garlands. For whom? For my fair love of lilies and of roses. For whom? For his beloved. Bound true love wise with a blue silk ribbon. He is saying let the garlands be bound with a blue silk ribbon. And let them make great store of bridal poses. He is saying let them bring the poses, bridal poses, and let them eke bring store of other flowers to deck the bridal bowers. He is saying let them also bring fragrant flowers to decorate the path which leads to the bridal chambers, so that when she walks. So here, and let the ground whereas her foot shall tread. The ground where she walks on foot, treading means what? Walking. Her foot shall tread, where her foot will walk on the ground. For fear the stones her tender foot should wrong. Means the stones will hurt her feet, no, when she is walking. So let the ground be covered with fragrant flowers, and when she was walking, she will walk only on those flowers and she will not get hurt. Which done, though at her chamber door await, means until her door, until the chamber door, the flowers should be put up. She will waken straight. When she wakes up, she will walk onto those flowers. Then whilst you do, sing on to her song. When you are doing this, sing her the song, and that is why she will awaken listening to your song. Ye nymphs of Mulla, which with careful heed the silver scaly trouts do tend full well, and greedy pikes which can therein to feed. Those trouts and pikes all others do excel, and ye likewise which keep the rushy lake, where none do fishes take. Bind up the locks the which hang scattered light, and in his waters which your mirror make, behold your faces as the crystal bright, that when you come whereas my love doth lie, no blemish she may spy. And eke you lightfoot maids which keep the deer that on the hoary mountain used to tower, and the wild wolves which seek them to devour, with your steel darts do chase from coming near, be also present here to help to deck her and to help to sing, that all the woods may answer and your echo ring. Now here he is saying, he is addressing the various nymphs of other natural rookies. The groom asks that they tend to their specialities to make the wedding day perfect. The nymphs who tend the ponds and lakes should make sure the water is clear and unmolested by lively fish, that they may see their own reflections in it, and so best prepare themselves to be seen by the bride. The nymphs of mountains and woods who keep deer safe from ravening wolves should exercise their skills in keeping these self-same wolves away from the bride on this wedding day. Both groups are to be present to help decorate the wedding site with their beauty. He is calling nymphs of Mulla. Now then he focuses on these nymphs who are taking care of the ponds or the waters, as well as who are taking care of the woods or the forests. Now he is saying first the water, the silver scaly trouts. Trouts are the kind of fish. Okay, these trouts are what can you say? These trouts are female fish, you can say, and pikes are male fishes. They are predatory of the female fish which feed on the trouts. So he is saying, keep the rushy lake where none do fishes take. Keep the lake uncrowded by the fish, and bind up the locks the which hang scattered light. You tie the hair, otherwise it will look like a scattered light. And in his waters which your mirror make, behold your faces as a crystal bright. Then when you come whereas my love doth lie, no blemish she may spy. Means when she looks in the water, her face should not have any blemish. The water has to be as clear, so that if she sees a ship in her fish in her reflection, it will look like a blemish on her face. It should not be like that. The water should be very clear. Be careful. Like that he was asking the water muses. And then he is saying to the lightfoot maid, the muses of the woods, who keep the deer safe from the wild wolves which wanted to devour. Devour means greedily eat those deer. These wolves are to be kept chased away from coming near to the deer by the steel darts. These lightfoot maids are these muses, protect the deer. He is telling you both should be present here on my wedding day. You should be there. And what should you do? You help to decorate her, and help to sing, and help to praise her. That is what he is saying in this stanza. He is saying, okay, so that is the fourth stanza we have got. Wake now, my love, awake, for it is time. The rosy morn long since left Tithon's bed, all ready to her silver coach to climb, and Phoebus gins to show his glorious head. Hark how the cheerful birds do chant their lays, and carol of love's praise. The merry lark hair meeting sings aloft, the thrush replays, the mavis doesn't place, the ousel shrills, the ruddock warbles soft, so goodly all agree with sweet consent to this day's merriment. Ah, my dear love, why do you sleep thus long, when meeter were that ye should now awake? To wait the coming of your joys make, to await the coming of your joys make, and hearken to the birds' love-learned song, the dewy leaves among. For they of joy and pleasance to you sing, that all the woods them answer, their echo ring. Now he is saying in this stanza, in the fifth stanza, the groom now addresses his bride directly. Even if she is not present here, he urges her to get up from sleep. Sunrise is long since gone. He is saying the rosy moon long since left Tithon's bed, means the sunrise is come and gone. And Phoebus, the sun god, Phoebus is the sun god, is showing his glorious head, means the sun is bright now. The birds are already singing. All these kinds of birds are singing, which shows the day's merriment, means the day is a happy day. That is what they are giving consent with their beautiful song. And now he is asking her, my dear, oh my dear love, why do you sleep thus long? Why are you sleeping so long today? You should be awake now. Await the coming of your joys. Make today is the day where you are supposed to get married. So get up already, he is saying. And hearken to the birds' love song. Listen to the birds' love song, because you get up. Today is a joyous and a pleasant day where they are singing. So it's time to get up. He is asking his bride to get up. My love is now awake out of her dreams, and her fair eyes like stars that dimmed were with darksome cloud now show their goodly beams more bright than Hesperus his head doth rear. Come now, ye damsels, daughters of delight, help quickly her to dight. But first come, you fair hours, which were begot in joy's sweet paradise of day and night, which do the seasons of the year allot, and all that ever in this world is fair, do make and still repair. And ye three handymaids of the Cyprian queen, the which do still adorn her beauty's pride, help to adorn my beautifulest bride. And as ye her array still throw between some graces to be seen, and as you used to Venus to her sing, the whiles the wood shall answer, and your echo ring. Now the bride has fully awakened. Finally she is awakened, and her eyes were like goodly beams. Now they are more bright than the Hesperus. Hesperus is the daughters of the evening star. Now he is asking, the groom urges the daughters of delight to attend to the bride, but summons to, he calls upon the hours of day and night, the seasons, and the three handymaids of Venus to attend her as well. He urges the handymaids to do for his bride what they do for Venus, and also asks them to sing to her as they help her dress for her wedding. Now here he says, her fair eyes like stars that dimmed were with darksome cloud. When she was asleep they were dark. Now she has opened her eyes, show their goodly beams, means now they are bright. And now he is saying, come now ye damsels, daughter of delight. He is calling the daughters of the evening star, Hesperides. Okay, Hesperus, he is calling. Help quickly her to dight. Help her, help my beloved, my bride, to to dress for today. But first come you fair hours which were begot in Jove's sweet paradise. Now Jove is Zeus. Zeus sweet paradise, he is calling upon the day and night and seasons of the year, and that he is saying, help my fair, means his love, his beloved. Okay, and you three handmaids of the Cyprian queen. Now he is calling upon the three handmaids of Venus, the which do still adorn her beauty's pride. Means Cyprian queen, here they used to adorn, decorate her beauty's pride. Help to adorn my beautiful bride. And as you her array still throw between some graces to be seen, and as you used to Venus, my means like how you decorate Venus, like that you help my bride, my beautifulest bride, to adorn. Adorn means to decorate her. And when you are at it, when you are decorating her, sing in between to her and make her happy when you are dressing her. That is what the poet is saying. Here Spenser introduces the personification of time in the hours that make up day, night and seasons. That means he is asking the time itself to participate in the marriage ceremony as the nymphs handmaids of Venus. He is personifying the time itself as if the time is participating in his marriage. This is something important we have to remember, because we'll come back to the time again and again. Now is my love already forth to come. Let all the virgins therefore well await, and ye fresh boys that tend upon her groom, prepare yourself, for he is coming straight. Set all your things in seemly good array, fit for so joyful day. The joyfulest day that ever sun did see. Fair sun, show forth thy favourable ray, and let thy lifeful heat not fervent be, for fear of burning her sunshiny face, her beauty to disgrace. O fairest Phoebus, father of the muse, if ever I did honour thee aright, or sing the thing that mote thy mind delight, does not thy servant simple boon refuse, but let this day, let this one day be mine, let all the rest be thine. Then I shall sovereign praises loud will sing, that all the wood shall answer, and their echo ring. Now in this stanza, the bride is ready with her virgins, with her bridesmaids. Okay, so now it is time for the groomsmen to be ready and prepare the groom for the marriage. The groom implores the sun to shine brightly. He asks the sun to shine brightly today. Okay, and but not so hotly that it will burn the beautiful bride's fair skin. He is asking, let the sun be bright, but not so hot that it will burn the face of the bride. And then he prays to Phoebus, the sun god. He prays to her that today let be this day mine, and all the others day be yours, but today you give me this day as a favor. He offers in exchange his poetry for him. He says, as a favor you give me this day, and I thy sovereign praises loud will sing. Means I'll sing praises of you. Take my poetry in exchange for it, he is saying. Okay. Now see here. Now is my love already forth to come. She is ready with all the virgins, therefore all are ready to come. Now he is asking fresh boys, the grooms, the groomsmen, and the grooms to prepare the groom, for he is coming straight. Set all your things in seemly good array, fit for so joyful day. Be ready for this joyful day. Prepare the groom for this joyful day. The joyfulest day that ever sun did see. The sun god has seen the most joyful day is today, which the sun god has ever seen. Fair sun, show forth thy favorable ray. He is saying, let your sun rays be favorable to me today, and let thy lilful heat not fervent be, for fear of burning her sunshiny face, her beauty to disgrace. He is asking the sun not to have hot day today, that it is going to burn the bride's face to disgrace. Her beauty is gone to disgrace. Let not that happen. Let the bride's face should not burn with the intensity of the sun's rays. Let it be favorable ray, means let it be a bright day. So shine brightly but not so hotly. O fairest Phoebus, father of the muse. Now he is asking, Phoebus is the sun god. If ever I did honor thee, alright. I honored you, alright. Or sing the thing that moved thy mind delight. From my poetry, when you are delighted, are you happy with my poetry? Do not day servant simple boon refuse. When you are happy with my poetry, do not refuse my simple request. What is the request? Let this day be mine. All the rest days be yours, but let this day be mine, and in exchange I'll give you the poetry. He is saying, then I thy sovereign praises loud will sing. I'll sing your praises. And with this, we finish the epithalamion part 1 here. Please look forward to my part 2 and part 3 in the upcoming videos. If you have liked my explanation, please comment, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for listening to me. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.